Hi there, welcome to the e-commerce nurse podcast, our 31st episode. I'm Karina McLeod, ex-Amazonian and CEO and founder of e-commerce nurse and vendor society. Today, we're going to be talking about managing a sustainable PPC strategy during tough economic times. We have a special guest, Tayler Carpenter, Vice President of Advertising for Blue Wheel Media, a digital and content production agency, helping e-commerce brands grow and scale their business. So, hey, Tayler, nice to have you on the show today.
It's nice to talk to you again, Karina.
I feel like I haven't done you justice because I just introduced you with your role and said a bit more about the company. So do you want to give our listeners a bit of an intro into yourself and your experience?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm at Blue Wheel right now. I'm the Vice President of Advertising. I have been at Blue Wheel for about 5.5 years, and I actually started our media buying department from the ground up. So I've been there pre-Cambridge Analytica days, post iOS 14. I've been here through it all. I remember when headline search ads were called that, and now they're called sponsored brand ads. So that's how long I've been around. And I've been in the digital world for over 10 years. I started off actually in the music festival industry doing social media and digital, which was really cool. And then my goal was to work at Lollapalooza, and somehow I ended up in digital marketing. So now I'm a vice president. So I think that, that's a pretty interesting little career journey there itself. But at Blue Wheel, we do so many things. So not only do we do marketplace and D2C advertising, we also have a full creative production studio, a full creative arm. And we do so many different things. One of our favorite things to do is to look at things from an omni-channel perspective, because gone are the days of advertising where you can just put all of your money in Amazon or all of your money in Facebook. Now, those are just little pieces of the puzzle to make brands, grow and scale. So we look at things SEO, we look at things Facebook, Amazon, Walmart, Instacart, all of these things. You're creative. They all go into each other, and that's what's going to help you essentially as a brand get success.
Awesome. Thank you. That's awesome. And I bet though our listeners are tuned in now because, of course, you have a huge amount of experience, and the fact that it's so broad is going to be fantastic. And I definitely want to talk more about that. And especially now with where we currently are in the economy. And I'm speaking obviously as a Brit coming out from the UK, but I know this is a global times are coming quite tough. What's the current climate look like when it comes to PPC at the moment?
Yeah, it's very fascinating. So not only do we have, right now it's post Prime Day, right? So Not only are we coming down from the Prime Day hoopla and the buying on Prime Day, the increased CPCs, the increased impressions, all of those, those increases, we're coming down from that. We're actually seeing on a marketplace standpoint, CPCs are still kind of high, because what happened is brands are still trying to capitalize on all of that traffic that they were able to get during that time. So they're continuing to invest and see what kind of happens. So CPCs are still kind of higher, but they're trending down. And from a paid perspective, we're seeing brands pulling back a little bit because of what's going on in the world, whether it's the heat wave in the UK or whether it's the recession that's kind of, everywhere you go, at least in the US, every TV station is talking about recession. You go on Twitter, you go on Facebook, this impending recession. And what we've started to see, especially in June, is the buying behavior has stopped a little bit. When we had looked at June compared to April, which is typically pretty similar buying patterns, because normally friends and families or Prime Day, let's say, is going to happen in July, in May, in February, in March. April is typically a pretty stable month, not really a ton of promos, not really a ton of holidays. Same thing with June. And so when we compared the two, June actually had a lower revenue month compared to April. So we saw, based on when gas started rising, at least in the US, gas at one point, the average was $4.68 mid-June across the entire country, which in Michigan, where I am, it was actually $1 higher than that. So between higher gas prices, between all of the talks of the recession, between everything kind of going on, and even, COVID spiking again and all of this, we saw that just people weren't buying as much because they were trying to protect what they had. Yeah. And then comes Prime Day, and then comes the 4th of July sales, and everyone starts buying again. So it's been a very interesting last, 3 months to look at how people are just, the buying behavior. It's, oh, there's a sale, I'm going to buy because we can't really do full price anymore because, again, talk about the recession. And then, you know, Prime Day comes again, I have to stock up all my favorite things, or I have to get an Alexa, or I have to get whatever that is. And that's kind of where we are now. So it's really interesting. One of the things also, if we look at kind of 2022, is the last 3 years. So 2019, 2020, 2021, there hasn't been a steady trend across any of those years. 2019 was pre-pandemic, as we've all affectionately called it. 2020 was the pandemic, where buying just went through the roof for several industries like the skincare and beauty space. And then you have 2021, which was part COVID, pandemic, lockdown, and then vaccines were released. And then it was like, you know, shopping kind of went down because people were out and enjoying life again. And then you have 2022, which is, you know, people are out and they're about. However, we have a recession and the highest gas prices. So it's been the last 3-4 years have been a very interesting roller coaster, essentially. And so what has happened a lot of times is brands have been trying every year to figure out with their investors or with their CEO or their C-suites, what should our goals be for the year? And they're basing it off of the last year's performance, or 2 years ago, we'll say 2020, when they had the best numbers ever. And then now we look at 2022 and we're not able to come near that because no one predicted in 2020 a pandemic. No one predicted in 2022 potential recession and the highest gas prices, or a rise again in COVID, or anything else that's happening right now.
That's crazy. When you put it into that perspective, you just realize how wild the last few years have been, right? And how it just becomes impossible to really forecast and budget, because you're not basing it on anything. And going like 2019 is almost too far back, right?
Yeah.
Because advertising in itself has changed. So how should brands forecast and actually know what is a reasonable budget?
That is a great question. You know, I feel like when you're in digital advertising and PPC, you are almost like a psychic in some way, because you have to predict all of these different outcomes and all of these different models of how to get, you know, from how do we get to hit our goal of, you know, whatever that is, which is maybe a 20% increase or whatever. So what we do is we take a look at, we base everything off of your actual performance. So your site performance, your actual PPC performance. So what does it look like the last 3 months? What does it look like the last 6 months? And we're able to see what is the average. And if there is an outlier, what does that look like? We know as an industry that still Prime Day, for the most part, it's going to be a larger, you know, it's going to be a larger buying moment on marketplaces. We know that when Cyber comes around, Black Friday and Cyber Monday, these are also going to be larger tentpole moments. Singles Day, that is becoming one of those other holidays that people need to really be planning in their promo calendars, because that is one of the largest world e-commerce days. So we know that we have those moments. So that isn't really going away. So we can assume that when it comes to November, and we'll say July or June, whenever Prime Day is, those are when we know we're going to want more of our budget so we can take advantage of these larger moments, right? So looking at the data that we have, we'll take a look and we'll see, okay, Q1 last year was this. Let's take out what happened last year. So if we're in 2022, we know in Q1 of 2021, still kind of locked down, vaccines hadn't rolled out. So we'll say, okay, let's assume that it's going to be more closer to what 2019 looked like, or 2020 looked like. And then we'll also say, what did it look like for the last 3 months? Or what did it look like before any sort of a promo period? And we take those numbers and we compare it and we say, okay, this is how we've been performing without promos. This is what it kind of looks like with promos. And this is what it looked like the last few years. Realistically, this we know is a number that we're comfortable with. And the brands, and we always align with our brands on that. The other thing that, regardless of promo periods, that we like to look at is how much of your sales are being driven in from your organic, in terms of your email marketing, your social, your influencer, your text messages, and all of these things. Because the number one thing every brand should make sure that they're doing is you need to have an infrastructure. And you can Google this, and this is something that you'll see across whatever, Shopify, Facebook, TikTok, whatever the sites are, they'll all tell you the same thing. You can't put all of your eggs in one basket, whether that's all in organic social or all in email or all in ads. And so that number is what's really, really, it's been helping us when it comes to forecasting, because if, let's say 90% of your sales are coming in through advertising, which was really the digitally native brands of 2017 to 2019, what you can really get from ads. And you can factor in higher CPCs, higher costs, higher competition when it comes to forecasting. Or on the flip side, if you have about 20% of your sales coming in through ads, okay, about 80% of our sales are going to be coming in from an organic or earned perspective. This is how much it's kind of looked at, and you can play with those numbers. And that really is what's going to help you with forecasting, getting closer to it. There's also another element, which is our board gave us this goal, or our C-suite gave us this goal, and it has to be a 40% increase, blah, 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 fill in the blanks. And so then there's, then you have to start forecasting, well, here's 3 scenarios that you get here. This is what it looks like if you keep your budget. This is what it looks like if you increase your budget. And then this is what it looks like if you want a guaranteed amount to hit this. This is, pie in the sky, everything that would have to fall into place.
Yeah.
So I feel like forecasting in 2022 is not as simple as it was in 2019, which wasn't simple then. There's forecasting is something that people do for a living. And so as an agency, you're trying to, again, you take like the psychic hat and you try to look into your like crystal ball, and you're like, okay, I have all these numbers. I'm trying to figure out, is there another pandemic coming? Are we going to see our groceries going to continue to increase? What does this look like? Let's factor that in. And then let's also look at this data that we have from the last, few months, few years, all of that stuff.
It is crazy, isn't it, to think about how you've just got to look at really that current scenario. And it's funny how you say that in terms of this number's just come out, because we've even had it as an agency where brands will say, right, this is our sales target and this is our ads budget. We need to hit our sales target, but they don't correlate. There's no way that ads budget is going to give them those sales. And I guess that's the fun part of the forecasting, right? Is actually what is the reality? And as you say, the pie in the sky, or how, okay, you want to get X, but the reality is you're going to have to spend this much. And talking about spend, and you spoke about cost per click going up, especially during these times. Do you see that just kind of continuing and brands starting to pull back? Because of course it's getting more expensive, and are brands willing to invest when times are tough?
Yeah, so it really depends on, I would say, the segment or the sector that the brands are into, the category. So if right now, if you're a fishing company, or if you're REI, right? REI, like, this is your go time because it's summer, people are outside, they're camping, they're doing all these things. Your industry is going to have incredibly high CPCs, because not only as you of REI being in there, but there's going to be every other brand that sells, there's Campers World, there's RV World, there's, tents.com, or whatever these things are. Everyone is going in. So your CPCs are going to be high. So if you are pulling back, you're going to be losing that market share. So that's one of the variants of kind of this, what's happening with these higher CPCs. We have seen that some larger brands that are kind of owned by these larger companies, they have started to pull back, because they're seeing, okay, if we pull back budget, let's say here on ads, we're going to try to win on TikTok from an organic strategy, or we're going to try to go and really invest in our influencer program, or we're going to reproduce our products, right? We're going to reformulate. So that's kind of what we've started to see from some larger brands. But even with them pulling back their budget, we're talking these insane numbers, right? That people can only think of and dream of having with their budgets. Even them pulling back 10 to 25%, they're still there. In 2020, we did see, with some of the things that was going on outside of digital advertising, there were advertisers who were boycotting platforms. Then we did kind of see, CPCs decrease because people were just not spending at all on Facebook or Google or Amazon. But now we're not really there yet. People are just kind of pulling back, and they're trying to see, how can we increase our sales outside of advertising? Is it having that influencer program? Is it having a strong email program? Because all of those, again, we talk about the puzzle, they all fit into the puzzle. But that's kind of one of the things that I would say what we're seeing. The other thing, which is interesting, is that CPMs are on the rise. So it's less on a cost per click basis. It's just to get that impression now, it's even more. So whether that's because more people on their platform advertising, less people actually on platforms scrolling as users, that's another factor that goes into that. There's so many different things. And, you know, it's interesting to kind of see what's next. So we know CPMs are high. We know CPCs are high. We know that they're going to go down a little bit more, probably in August. People aren't really going to be shopping as much. We have back to school, and then they're going to go back up. So at some point, what we're going to find in the next year or 2 years is, at what point are we going to stop having these increased CPCs? And at what point are people just going to stop, right? Because some brands, they have 94-cent CPCs on Facebook or Amazon, and it's like fantastic. Some brands are at $5 and the same inventory, just slightly different audiences. So when are brands going to go, is this too much? Like, is there another strategy? Because what we've also been having is pivots, when it's like, maybe we don't bid on this audience, or maybe we don't do these types of keywords. Maybe we try this way, or maybe we, you know, maybe there's something that we need to go into, whether it's long tail or modifying your match type or whatever that is. That's kind of a lot of the different things that are going on, but it's interesting. Every day it changes too, because you know, Meta tomorrow, Meta tomorrow can announce, we're now, you know, letting you target people who, I don't know, shop on Amazon, and we have all this data, which that will never happen. Let me just caveat that, because Amazon wants their own data to be, you know, theirs. But if Facebook was to do that, then it would be this insane, like, now there's even more data, and then people will be investing more because they want to get on top of it. So it would, you know, every day it seems like it goes up, it goes down, and it's like, why is this happening?
And that just comes back to that sustainability part, right? As in, then what is sustainable, and what is a sustainable strategy? Because we do see this where we talk with brands, and there's a part where they want to defend their brand, they want to do everything, they want to be on the first page and all of this, and we have this conversation, and then all of a sudden they look at the bottom line and they're like, whoa, we didn't make enough profit, right? So then they need to then start changing their strategy. Can brands actually be sustainable when it comes to PPC?
Yeah, I think they can. And it's really, we go back to that conversation of, you have to look at, is advertising driving all of your sales? Attribution aside, because that's a whole other topic for a whole other day. But if you look at where are all of your sales coming from, and you can look at the data, whether it's Shopify, Magento, Google Analytics, at least until cookies are gone and you have to switch to GA4. But if your sales are coming from email, if your sales are coming from only advertising, then it's not going to be sustainable, because you're really just hoping that people are going to be converting. And as we talk about CPCs rising and CPMs rising, you're going to have less and less people coming to your site. So you're going to start seeing your revenue go down and down and down. Now, brands that are really focused and make sure that they have a strong infrastructure, they have their email set up, they have the right creative in place, they have the right shopping experience on site, they're going to be able to have a longer sustainable strategy, because they have the other pieces in the puzzle already there. I've always liked to do puzzles the outside and then I go inside. I don't know if that's like the basic puzzle strategy. I don't know, but that's how I like to do it. And that's how I think brands should always do it too, is you have at least a framework, you know that you already have these sustainable things going on. Let's add advertising on the inside, or let's add, you know, PR or whatever that is. That's the difference between sustainable brands and non-sustainable brands. That's kind of how it's probably going to be, because the less data we have as advertisers to go off of, which has already started happening, it's going to happen again even next year when cookies go away from Google. The less data we have, the harder it is going to be to get the same reach that we did, or the same measurement that we did. So you're going to see those numbers, your revenue start to slow down. But if you have that foundation, that infrastructure, you won't see the same effects. You'll feel it a little bit more, because you might be used to a 2x return on ad spend, right? In the future, we're going to be lucky if you have a 0.5 ROAS, just because we're not going to be able to get that data.
Yeah.
But you're still going to see the fruits of your labor elsewhere.
Yeah. That's such a really interesting point, and such a strong point that you've made there, because we've seen it where some brands are so dependent on ads, which is dangerous, because that's not growing a sustainable business, is it? Because what happens then, they're like, well, let's just pull the plug on ads.
Yeah.
Because it costs us too much. Okay, but you've pulled the plug on your whole entire business effectively, because there is nothing else. And as you say, it's part of the puzzle, but it's almost part of that boost, isn't it?
Yes.
And so there's all these other ways then, this infrastructure. What would you say are those kind of, if you were to prioritize, what would those key pointers be in terms of, even sort of prior to ads, to ensure that the must-have infrastructure?
You need to have a website or an e-commerce platform that is going to allow you to be able to get as much information as possible, but it needs to be easy. So what we always recommend is Shopify. I don't have an affiliate code. I don't have anything like that. If you saw me at Prosper, I already talked about this too. Shopify is one of those that we always talk about, because it's easy to customize pages. It's easy to get landing pages out there. It's just a seamless checkout for people. Yeah. Shop Pay has become, I'm so lazy now. Like if you don't have Shop Pay, I'm not paying from you. Like I'm not buying from you at all, because I can just click a button. It sends a code to my phone and I'm done. Love that. It's dangerous, but I love it. So I would say you need to have a site like Shopify, because it's seamless. You need to have an email program, an email or SMS. So Klaviyo is a really, really strong program that a lot of brands use. Again, we talk about this. It's simple, it's easy, and it's very impactful. So you need to have your marketing tech down. So we always recommend Shopify and Klaviyo. Those are our two. Yeah. And then if you need to also make sure that you have, like, what is your social strategy from an organic perspective? The hot topic right now is TikTok. Everyone wants to advertise on TikTok, everyone. And it's seemingly like, as an avid TikTok user, every other video is sponsored at this point, which is annoying, but I get it. Everyone has to make their money. Yeah. But brands think that TikTok is the way that they will explode. That's what it is, right? It's that same virality that everyone was trying to get in 2009 to 2012 on YouTube. It's the same thing now, just on TikTok. And what I recommend is, don't advertise on TikTok first. Don't listen. There's all this hype about it. If you need to really invest in your organic strategy, because the more organic content you have, the more likely you are to show up on someone's For You page. And there is no formula for it. It's literally just whatever someone engages with. And it can be a silly, like, I liked someone's post or video about a book, and I don't even really read, but now I'm getting all these book recommendations, and now I'm like, I really want to read. And so if you had book content or something that was on a trend for books, you could show up on my feed. Yeah. It's a very interesting way. So we talk about that infrastructure. You need to have an organic presence. Instagram, it was super cheap to get followers, 10 years ago. TikTok is at point right now. So you should really be trying to get there. Making your presence on, you still need to have a presence on Instagram. You need to be doing reels. You need to be doing that whole Instagram thing still, because people are going to go to either TikTok or Instagram to make sure, like, are you a real brand? Is this, you need to also make sure you're still getting press. We talk about infrastructure, Shopify, Klaviyo, your organics, TikTok, Instagram. You need press. If you're not getting press, or if you're not winning awards or anything, again, why am I buying your product over someone else's? Or why am I not just going to Amazon to get a basic sweat set? If you have the top sweat set in the world, a cute little jumper and joggers or something, why would I pay $100 for yours if I can just go to Amazon and get a very similar thing for $20? And so PR and awards is where this can really kind of help out. Maybe a celebrity wore it, or you won a Best of Beauty award, or I don't know, you have all these testimonials or whatever that is. You need to create the social proof for your brand. And that's, again, we go back to that infrastructure. Because if you don't have any of those 4 things I've mentioned, you're not really going to see a lot of success with ads. The one I haven't mentioned yet is creative. you need to have creative. E-commerce images, even Amazon is saying like, that's the main image you should have in your PPC, but you need to have lifestyle images. Like Amazon is saying you need video, and you need to have video, you need to have lifestyle, you need to show your product in a different light than just like your typical white background, right? And so you need to make sure that you have creative that's going to answer all the questions. How do I use this product? Or how do I wash this product? What is this product even? What is it? What is this brand I'm buying from? Brand videos, how to, anything educational. Like these are all important things that you need in your creative strategy. Because if you don't, again, why am I going to buy from you? So those are kind of the 5 things that we look at. And then advertising comes in, and that's the cherry on the top. So you have the outside of your puzzle built, and you have all these things, and now advertising can come in.
I love that. Yeah.
We can talk about puzzles. We can talk about making like the perfect parfait or ice cream sundae. Like the cherry on top is advertising. But if you don't have the ice cream and the hot fudge, or if you don't have the outside of your puzzle, none of that is going to actually work.
Oh, that's so true. That's so true. You really got me thinking there, because we have this conversation so many times with brands when you're trying to understand, and they just focus. The focus is predominantly on ads, advertising, and especially brands that are very Amazon heavy.
Yes.
They just sort of get focused on Amazon ads is the be all and end all. But, you know, I've seen this where we've even had brands come to us and say, well, we're just not doing great on Amazon. You see them pumping loads of money at Amazon ads, but their product pages aren't even like substandard. And you're like, how, you know, what part, you know, that's the fundamental basics, right, in terms of getting your listings. But as you've mentioned, there's this bigger picture, and it's not, I mean, you've got your brands that are Amazon only, but actually this part I always do when I come across a brand on Amazon, I want to check that they exist elsewhere.
Right.
I'm a bit, you know, I get a bit bit of a brand snob, need to try and check it out. What are they like? And then you start seeing the kind of community and everything. And there's a whole, you know, bigger picture.
Yeah, there's so many different brands that sell similar products. So let's look at moisturizers. How many moisturizers are on the market available? Thousands, I don't know, millions. I mean, it's huge. So if you're looking for a nighttime moisturizer, you can go to Amazon. You're going to probably type in your search of best nighttime moisturizer. You're going to get all of these sponsored. You're going to get all of these organic. You're going to read the reviews. You're then going to probably go to Google. You're going to Google it. You're going to see, is it located at the Boots or the CVS near me? What is going on? You know, where can I get this? And then you're going to see Google ads. You're going to see shopping ads. Again, you're just being inundated with images and all of these claims of the best moisturizer.
Yeah.
What I do is I go to Instagram. I go, you know, I get my info. I go to the brands. I Google. I see what are they doing. I go to the sites. But whether it's Amazon or D2C, I'm looking at the reviews because I want to see the worst reviews, but I also want to see the most recent. And that's like the biggest thing I do is I always look at the most recent, because for some reason it always happens that like a 2019 review comes up that's like the best product ever. I'm like, oh, really cool. And I look, it's from 4 years ago or 3 years ago. And I'm like, oh, can I trust this? Like, was it reformulated? But there's so many different things. So like you said, like, if you have your Amazon listing and your content is subpar, people aren't going to take you seriously as a brand. They're going to go, oh, okay, next one, because there's hundreds of other sellers who have better content than you. And content can be it seems like a very sometimes intimidating. It's a small lift. You just have to make sure you know what you're doing. There's plenty of partners that know what they're doing and can help you with that too. And so it's important. And I just took my Amazon certifications again. So if anyone's listening, Jeff or whoever at Amazon, I just took mine again. They have a whole retail readiness checklist. And I went through it and I'm like, this is something that everyone has access to and everyone should be looking at, especially if you're selling on Amazon. And think about that too for your D2C. It's not just Amazon specific. You need to have all this information for no matter if someone's shopping on your D2C or no matter if someone's shopping on your marketplace ad. It's very applicable to both.
Yeah, definitely. And sometimes we see this with some of the larger, well-known brands that have been always big, known in bricks and mortar. that this is where they start falling down. And we've had a lot of conversations, and I had a previous podcast where we were talking about digital transformation, which was really insightful, because some of these brands are just are still in that mindset of bricks and mortar. Mm-hmm. We're a known brand, but actually they're seeing market share be taken by all these emerging brands that have just mastered content when it comes to selling online.
Yeah. Let's look at Casper, right? 2010, 2011. No one previously to, let's say, 2000 was buying beds in a box online. Like, that's such a, why would you get a mattress in a box? Like, it doesn't even compute. Casper comes into the market with very little market share and says, we have 100 days sleep. If you don't like our mattress, just send it back. That's it.
Yeah.
You don't have to go to a store. We take all it out. We'll literally remove your old mattress. You get a bed in a box. And it was just like, again, everyone's trying to understand, how does this work? But also, they're going to do everything for me. I don't have to go to a store. I want Casper. And that's why now you see Casper is brick and mortar.
Yeah.
We have locations, in different pop-ups in different malls, but without them, with the content and the creative and just the way that they did everything is really set the stage for what brands should be doing now, in terms of, you need to have the right content. You need to be, why should I buy a bed in a box? Yeah. Why should I, I'm trying to think of something else that's come up recently where I'm like SodaStream. Again, why wouldn't I just go to the store and buy like a carbonated beverage? Like what? But then it's like, I don't have to go to a store. I can just buy this machine and it will do it for me. And I can get different flavors. And I think I could save money in the long run. Like, that's what you need to make sure when it comes to your advertising, your creative, your D2C, your Amazon listing pages. Like, that is the mentality you need to have. And I think that's one of the things that bigger brands lack is a lot of times they're stuck in the ways that got them large in brick and mortar, which would be talking 80s, 90s, early 2000s. That's no longer, like, we all love vintage. We all love, a good Madonna's moment from the 80s, but if your brand is still in the same marketing plan from then, you're going to continue to lose market share, because emerging brands, they're way past that. They're 3 steps ahead.
Yeah, that's crazy. And I guess this, and that's it. It's the constant change as well that's going on. And what we've found also with brands is that some of the larger brands are then so focused on, okay, right, we need to optimize all our images. We need to do all lifestyle, but they take so long in trying to master sometimes what they call a blueprint or how it should be. By the time it's been executed, the next thing, the next kind of stage is on. Oh, no life to start. We're now focusing on this, or 360, or it's just video content and everything. And I guess, how do you keep up with those constant changes as a brand?
Yeah, it's challenging, because I would say the one thing that, digital marketing, every day there's a new change, whether it's an algorithm change, a new size that's available, whatever that is, there's something new. Yeah. And the one thing I've seen is brands who get stuck in their ways, or brands that kind of stick into that, we just finished blueprint number 1, we have to do this, we can't move on to the next one, which is now the requirement, is they're so obsessed with the way that their brand looks, or it has to have the brand feel. The way that kind of what TikTok has really done, and this kind of started with Emma Chamberlain, that whole Instagram, like 2018, 2019 vibe is raw, authentic. And that's one of the things is with TikTok now, you don't do editorial content. That's not going to fit in. Like, you have to be raw, and you have to not be editorial, and it has to almost be like, gross is not the right word, but it's just real, right? That's what you really need to focus on. And sometimes people just want real. Yeah. I really like when I was looking on Amazon for something the other day, and I scrolled down past all the content, past all the e-commerce and lifestyle images. And I went to see, like, what are people who actually bought this for? Like, what does it look like on them? Yeah. And that's what got me to buy the product. I bought a dress, and I was like, okay, there's different body types, there's different colors, there's different, all of these things. And I'm like, now I understand better how this product's going to be.
Yeah.
Same thing with TikTok and same thing with Instagram now with Reels. Like you want raw and authentic. And a lot of times we talk to brands and we're like, hey, this is the way that people really are responding to things. And this, they like this. And we get conversations where it's like, well, this isn't brand approved. We can't do this.
Yeah, completely. Yeah.
And I get that. You have to be true to yourself. And if you're a large brand, it's hard to, turn around and do a complete 180 when it comes to your branding and this, but brands who have been able to let that go, we have seen to start to succeed. And that's what's important. And, you can look at all these different brands and see kind of what they're doing and how they're reinventing themselves. And, you can't just be the same one. You can still have your legacy and your heritage behind you. You just kind of have to modernize it and update it a little bit, because as we continue again to go more and more into digital marketing, that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, definitely. And with that, do you think that then they could impact the whole sustainability? Because we do see that with larger brands that kind of don't pay attention to those parts that, the 5 points that you mentioned about the social, the email, the creative, and then just chuck loads of money at ads. But actually, they're still way behind on that other part. So I guess they've always sort of just had that money pumped into them that they, when you have a lot of money, you can throw things at. They haven't necessarily needed to. But if we do go into these tough economic times, that's when you've got to be, I guess, more smart with actually where you're investing.
Yeah. And typically the first thing that goes is advertising, because you think that's the easiest way for me to do this, right? The easiest way for me to save whatever this is, whether it's 10,000, 10 million, it doesn't matter. It's the quickest way for me to save that, right?
Yeah.
But what you're losing is that reach that you were once getting. And there's different ways that you can optimize and get efficiency. And maybe instead of focusing on your entire catalog or all of your ASINs, you focus on your top ASIN, or you focus on ASINs that have a lot of potential, or really, there's different things that you can do to save budget. And I think one of the other things that a lot of brands will do is they'll either, okay, I'm going to cut my marketing department, or I'm going to cut my agency. And we have both been in this position before. And, there's things that you get when you work with a marketing department or a marketing agency that they're going to give you insights and tell you like, you're not alone, or we have a lifeline to Facebook or Amazon that we're able to get this information to help you as a brand. And I've seen this so many times. I have family members who are marketing, and in 2008, for those of us in the US, who remember everything that happened with like the big three in automotive, which was a huge deal in Michigan because that's the motor city. Like that's, Detroit, the motor city. And people were just let go because, again, marketing and all of these things were the first thing gone.
Yeah.
But in reality, you could have done things. I mean, there's probably things that could have been done differently, and you could become more efficient. And it's the same thing every time we go through these economic cycles where it's like, do you need to be spending $10 million in ads? No, maybe we spend 5 million or whatever. And maybe we just, instead of marketing every single product ever that we have, let's focus on 1 or 2 SKUs or 1 or 2 ASINs, and let's kind of pare back this messaging. And maybe we don't do all of these promos, which we know is going to, cut into our margins, or there's a lot of different things that you can do outside of just, for one, I'm just cutting all my budget.
Yeah, definitely. And that goes back to, as you say, if you've got the foundation in that infrastructure, then you've got something to fall back on. Otherwise, and I think that can, when you've got lots of budget, that can get disguised because you kind of sometimes ignore the basics, and you're not always as smart with budget. And it's actually these times when people start getting smarter, or realizing they probably should have been a lot smarter a while back. But
well, I mean, it's hindsight, right? This is when you get like the best hindsight ever is, wow, I should have, I should have, took that call with Clavio, or I should have thought about this a little bit more, or maybe we shouldn't have built our brand this way, or whatever. And I think this economic time might really kind of set the stage for the future, because it's happening. We have Google cookies going away next year. I'm waiting for the day that Amazon has some sort of a thing. But then again, Amazon is one of the most profitable businesses, or most, they have so much stuff that like, if it's Amazon versus Apple or Google, like, it's really the battle of Goliath, and it's okay, whatever. So, there's a whole thing there, but it's going to be really interesting. And I think that this time can show that you don't need to either cut your marketing team or all of your marketing spend, but this is the time that you should start investing into your infrastructure if you haven't already. Or maybe this is the time that you embrace maybe loosening up on your brand guidelines because you have to get on TikTok, or you have to, everyone's talking about Signal, and I keep seeing Signal everywhere, and I still don't understand Signal, but I know that it's like another WhatsApp or another way for people to communicate with each other. Maybe that's something that your brand should do, or maybe your brand should be on Twitch, or maybe your brand should be on Discord. There's things that you can do outside of, I would say just solely marketing to build your infrastructure that you should be taking advantage of.
Yeah, definitely. And that leads me on to my final question is, if you were to give a tip to someone that's probably listening and thinking, right, I need to review my PPC strategy, or we don't have one, what would that tip be?
Yeah. So one, I'm going to tell you, this is gonna be a larger tip, right?
Yeah.
If you've learned anything from this podcast, I will talk about, you'll ask me one question, I'll give you 15.
This is awesome though. I'm like noting things down. I'm like, yes, I love that. Yeah.
So I would say, when it comes to, if it's time, you're going in, you're looking at your strategy, do you have your infrastructure set up? That's the biggest thing I'm going to tell you. Then if the answer is yes, let's talk about your marketing strategy. And are you running efficiently as you can be, or are you sacrificing it, increasing your revenue for a higher return? That being one of the things I run into, and you might also run into this, Karina, is my goal is a 5x return on ad spend, or a 10% ACOS. And if I get above that number ACOS wise, or if I get below that ROAS, I cannot spend anymore. That is not going to work in the future, because you have to start looking at tacos. You have to start looking at MER. You just have to start looking at how is your revenue is affecting, how is everything kind of working with that?
Yeah.
Because if you're solely focusing on just living or essentially like making decisions on high or low performance in terms of return on ad spend or ACOS, you're not going to grow as a brand, because I can tell you that there's a lot of other brands out there who have joined, the mentality of tacos, MER, which is marketing efficiency ratio, or just profitability numbers from a total perspective on their site, and they're able to grow. That's who's growing right now. And I think that, if your infrastructure is in place, look at your performance and what you're holding yourself to, and then go from there. There's so many things. And if your creative is like, if you're like, I don't like my creative, get new creative. There's so many places that do it. You can get it for, there's all these places like Suna and stuff that can do it in turn around really quickly, or invest in a photo shoot that's going to get you through 6 months to a year and give you all of this amazing assets that you can use across marketplaces and D2C. Just review everything, see what you're going towards, and then from there, where are you going to go? I think that was a tip.
That's an awesome tip.
Okay.
I think been tips throughout. I love it. And I really want to say thank you for coming on the show today and sharing your experience. I know that we met at Prosper, and I came to one of the talks that you did, and you've just got so much knowledge of this when it comes to digital advertising, and the way you explain it is really, you simplify it and actually make it really kind of, I don't know, you just kind of get that energy that you want to go out, right, I'm going to go and do this, we need to go and look at this infrastructure and everything. So thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with our audience today.
Of course. Thanks for having me. I mean, listen, I started in digital marketing, like I said, 10 plus years ago, and my very first client was a cat litter client. So if I can sell cat litter on PPC, I feel like I can sell anything, honestly.
Oh, awesome. That is awesome. I love that. And for those that are listening, if you would like to know more about how Blue Whale Media can help you with your e-commerce advertising and content strategy, make sure you reach out to the team at bluewhalemedia.com. And also, if you need any support selling on Amazon in the US and Europe, reach out to us at eCommerce Nurse. We'd love to hear from you and see how we can help you on your Amazon journey. So Tayler, is there anything else that you want to add, sort of, if anybody has any questions, because I'm sure those will want to jump in and get the opportunity to talk to you, given the knowledge that you have?
Yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn. I'll make sure to pass over all the information, but you can find me on LinkedIn. Tayler Carpenter. My name is spelled with an E, not an O. So if you think of Taylor Swift, I'm the opposite. So just think of that way. But you can find me on LinkedIn. I typically post on there, and I like to have, I don't like it to be all serious. But yeah, you can find me there, and I look forward to, if anyone wants to talk, I look forward to always talking about these types of things. This is my favorite topic to talk about.
Awesome. Thanks, Taylor. And
awesome. Thanks, Karina.
And thanks everyone for listening.